From a baby to a toddler, we're embarking on our most formative years, a time when we'll put our growing brains and developing immune systems to the test. Age 2. We've survived infancy and can stand on our own 2 feet. Next up is a uniquely human challenge, learning to talk. Talking takes a lot of brain power. A 2-year-old learns 10 new words a day. This is Broca's area, the region at the side of the brain used for speech production and comprehension. Language is what separates us from other animals. We exchange complex thoughts and ideas and teach our children not just by showing, but by telling. As our brains develop, we gain other uniquely human qualities. We're aware of our own identities and individuality. We gain the ability to think for ourselves. And we're forming memories that will last a lifetime, like our first day at school. We may remember what was going on around us, but the real action is happening inside. The brain is a mass of 100 billion nerve cells. Between them, they generate enough electricity to keep a light bulb burning for a day. The cells communicate using electric impulses. Each impulse is a tiny fragment of thought or memory. When we hear a new word,
My grandpa's veteran.
our ears convert the sound into electrical impulses in our brains. The brain can learn because the connections between brain cells aren't permanent. The brain rewires itself. Nerve cells send out tendrils called axons, constantly forming new connections. The cells meet at a tiny gap called a synapse. Chemicals bridge the gap to allow the impulse to continue the chain. The new connections form a pattern, a new memory. We learn by making new connections between brain cells and then reinforcing them through repetition. The stronger the reinforcement, the more likely the memory will stick.
What does the word veteran mean?
When someone asks us to recall that memory, the same pattern of axons fires, and the memory comes alive. Our brains respond by sending messages to the nerves that drive the muscles in our arms. We raise our hands.
Me, miss.
In childhood, our brains are primed to learn, and they're growing fast. The rapid growth allows our brains to easily form new connections, an ability that will fade with age. And while our brains keep learning, our bodies do the same. It's the immune system's job to learn to recognize infections. Every germ that enters the body carries the potential threat of disease. But first, the germ has to get there. Immunity doesn't begin inside our bodies. We start fighting germs the moment they touch us. We have an arsenal of defenses against infection. Our eyebrows and eyelashes, ear hairs, and nasal hairs catch airborne bacteria. Sweat, tears, and mucus wash them off. Our skin constantly sheds its top layer of cells, taking bacteria with it. The mouth is especially vulnerable. Here, too, we are armed and ready to fire. Each squirt of saliva contains lysozyme, an enzyme specially targeted to destroy bacteria. Our saliva glands are tiny, yet they produce nearly half a gallon of saliva every single day. Sometimes, a pathogen breaks through these external defenses, and our immature immune system reacts to prevent infection. Tiny viruses travel through our blood and probe our skin cells for signs of weakness. The virus hijacks a cell and manufactures thousands of copies of it. Then, the infected cell ruptures, spreading even more viruses around the body. This particular virus causes a rash, chickenpox. The fever that comes with infection is a sign that the body is fighting back. Heat slows down the spread of the disease because viruses don't reproduce well when it's hot. The immune system kicks into action. White blood cells latch onto infected cells and pump in poisonous proteins, which kills the cell and the viruses. Crusty skin blisters signal the battle waged between the immune system and its viral assailants. Each one contains cellular debris and the remains of 100,000 viruses. It may be unpleasant, but getting diseases like this when we're young is vital for our developing immune systems. Our bodies create memory molecules against the virus, antibodies. We used to rely on antibodies from mother's milk. Now, we make our own. If we catch the same disease when we're older, the antibodies enable our bodies to recognize the virus instantly. White blood cells wipe it out before it has a chance to take hold. This is why childhood is the perfect time for vaccination. Vaccines are harmless doses of viruses like mumps, polio, or rubella. The body creates antibodies as if it had really been infected. Now, if we ever catch the real thing, the body will recognize it and attack. Age 11. Childhood is nearly over, and we're about to change like never before. We're on the cusp of adolescence. But first, the hormone surge of puberty. In its first decade, the human body changes beyond recognition. But now comes the biggest change of them all, the roller coaster ride of puberty. By age 11, puberty is already underway for most. But there's no schedule. For some, it happens later, some earlier. It depends on our DNA clocks, our lifestyles, even our diets. Whether 10 or 13, female or male, it begins in the brain for all of us. At the base, the hypothalamus, the same region that controls our body temperature. Puberty starts when the hypothalamus releases a protein, kisspeptin, into the brain. The kisspeptin triggers the release of other hormones in a chain reaction throughout the body. Only then do our sex organs begin to mature. In girls, that means ovulation. This is a high-definition view of a woman's ovaries, the off-white organs in the center. This unique footage from Gold Coast IVF Fertility Center in New York shows an actual egg inside a protective blister of fluid. During ovulation, an egg bursts from the ovary and travels down the fallopian tube to the uterus. From now until menopause, the same thing will happen every month. Then, menstruation clears the uterus of unfertilized eggs. The ovaries not only produce eggs, they also produce a potent cocktail of chemicals. They release hormones into the bloodstream, including estrogen. These hormones have dramatic, lasting emotional and physical effects. Both boys and girls experience a growth spurt. Women and men's body shapes diverge. Girls become women. Boys become men. Male brains also release kisspeptin to trigger puberty. A flood of new hormones stimulates the testicles to produce sperm. The testicles also generate a 10-fold surge in testosterone, the hormone that creates the physical characteristics of manhood. The larynx opens up, and tilts forward. The vocal cords stretch wider. The longer cords vibrate at a lower pitch. The voice deepens. Testosterone stimulates the growth of body hair and doubles muscle mass, including 40% more heart muscle. These are changes we can see and hear, but changes are going on that we can't see. In the brain, nerve cells undergo extensive rewiring, transforming our mood and character. Both sexes experience a flood of new emotions, and one beats them all. For the first time, both sexes find the other sexually attractive. From the inside out, our bodies are overwhelmed by new sensations. Our pulse races. Our blood pressure rises. Our lips gorge. Our cheeks flush with blood. All signs that we desire someone. And if the desire turns out to be mutual, we hit another major milestone, our first kiss. In its first 2 decades, the human body accomplishes something close to miraculous. We're nearly 4 times our original height, 21 times heavier. We've digested 9,000 tons of food. Our hearts have beaten over 1 billion times. Our lungs have drawn over 200 million breaths. Now, with puberty behind us, we're ready, in mind and body, to become adults.
Do I think that we can become completely independent from oil? No.
I think particularly Americans are way too dependent on oil.
We've depended on one primary source for far too long.
It would make a lot of sense from a security standpoint to me to have something to offset that demand so that we could produce more of our own fuel supplies here locally.
Our early 20s, childhood and puberty are behind us. This is the start of a new phase in our lives, adulthood. We've flown the nest. What happens now is up to us. In our 20s, we look and feel better than at any other time in our lives. We're in our prime, both outside and in. Trillions of cells make up our organs and tissues. Over time, these wear out or get damaged, but new cells grow and divide to replace the old ones. Our body replaces entire organs, so it's no wonder we feel good. Essentially, every 10 years, we get a brand new body. Some tissues regenerate even faster, like our hair and nails, which requires a quick trip to the salon every so often. Hairs are made from modified dead skin cells. Each hair grows from a follicle embedded in the skin. The modified cells grow here, then die as new cells push them upward. The column of dead cells is the hair. Each person grows an incredible 7 miles of hair every year. Our hair grows whether we want it to or not, but other parts of our body are partially under our control. Choices we make now, like exercising, affect us for the rest of our lives. It has an effect throughout the body, helping cells and organs stay in peak condition. Our muscles are also building. This is a new imaging technique that combines the highest resolution CT scans with cutting-edge computer power. It's called volumetric, and it shows how our 650 skeletal muscles make up to 1/3 of our adult body weight. It's been suggested that if all the muscles in the body work together, they would generate enough power to lift more than 11 tons, the weight of more than 4 SUVs. Muscles are made from bundles of fibers. A good workout rips these fibers apart, but our cells repair the damage by adding extra material. The muscle grows back, bigger and stronger, through choices we made. Unfortunately, some choices are less beneficial. Some expose us to damage that even our youthful cells can't repair. Parties are a part of life in our 20s. We all know smoke can damage the lungs. But smoke isn't the only hazard here. Our hearing is under threat too, from loud noise. The problem is deep inside the ear. The fragile sensory hairs in the cochlea, or stereocilia, turn sound into nerve impulses. Loud noise destroys these irreplaceable cells. The hairs that respond to high frequencies are most affected, maybe because high-pitched sounds shake their foundations more violently. The effect is too small to notice. But the frequency range of our hearing is already shrinking. Another source of damage is alcohol. As we absorb alcohol into our bloodstream, it affects both our organs and our state of mind. It raises our blood pressure and makes our heartbeat irregular. We relax, lose our inhibitions, and our coordination. These symptoms are a consequence of chemical reactions in the brain, especially in this region, the cerebellum. It controls coordination and balance. When we drink, alcohol affects the cerebellum's brain cells. Some synapses accept the signal more frequently. Others become totally blocked. The more we drink, the more extreme the effect. It may feel good now, but there'll be a price to pay later. Time passes, and we get to know our limits. Now, new challenges are on the horizon to find love and have children of our own. Our late 20s. Childhood is a distant memory, but not the thrill of our first kiss. That was pure lust. Now, it's time for something new. It's time to fall in love. Many of us meet our future partners at work. We may think the attraction is social or physical, but a lot of it is biological. We use our eyes to size up our date. But looks aren't everything. Attraction is also about smell. Inside the nose, olfactory nerves do more than detect smells. They also detect chemicals we can't smell, pheromones, odorless hormonal messages we release in our sweat. Pheromones carry information about our genetic health and our ability to resist disease. Our brains use these signals to help choose a partner with the best possible genes for our children. Love is more than just an emotion. It's all about chemistry. We release adrenaline into the blood. Our heart pounds. We can't sleep. When that happens, another hormone comes into play. The brain floods with dopamine, the feel-good hormone. It's as potent as cocaine, makes us euphoric, and it's addictive. It leaves us wanting more. We start thinking about commitment and eventually marriage. Love, both chemical and emotional, wins the day. It's a relationship we hope will last a lifetime, and the process of long-term bonding is chemical. Sex isn't just about procreation or recreation. It chemically strengthens the bond between us. Both partners' pituitary glands pump the blood full of a substance called oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. It's the very same hormone that binds us to our mothers as newborns. anthropologists believe oxytocin could be evolution's way of creating a bond that's strong enough to endure the trials of parenthood. And the time for parenthood is now. The man releases sperm. The goal, to find the egg. An egg ripens and bursts from the woman's ovary, the largest cell in the human body. It passes into the fallopian tube, ready for fertilization. Sperm are the smallest cells in the human body, and they have a tough journey ahead of them. First, they have to survive the hostile environment of the vagina. Its secretions are acidic to prevent bacterial infection, but they also kill sperm. Ejaculation releases 300 million sperm, but only thousands will make it as far as the cervix. The surviving sperm swim into the uterus and fallopian tube. Muscular contractions in the walls of the fallopian tube help guide the sperm toward the egg. Only a few hundred make it this far. And only one will succeed in fertilizing the egg. This truly is survival of the fittest. 10 hours later, the strongest of 300 million sperm is the one to pass on its genes. So far, there's no sign of conception. We're totally unaware that we're about to embark on a new chapter in our lives. Over the next 40 weeks, a single cell will develop into a perfectly formed baby. Often, the first symptom is morning sickness. No one knows for sure what causes the nausea. One theory is that it protects the fetus from toxins in food, which could harm its organs during this critical phase of development. Another theory is that nausea is a side effect of the mother's immune system, as it weakens to avoid attacking the developing embryo. The fetus is effectively a parasite. It saps the mother's energy as it draws what it needs from her body. It has its own life support system, the placenta. Here, the mother's blood passes nutrients across a membrane into the fetal blood. With this constant supply of nourishment, the fetus grows over 30 ounces in its first 10 weeks. The uterus expands to 1,000 times its normal size, just to hold it. That extra space has to come from somewhere. So the mother's body rearranges itself internally. This woman isn't pregnant, but her organs are still a tight fit. In a pregnant woman, the organs get squeezed, and some are pushed up into her chest. Not only are the organs squished, now they're working for two. The lungs and heart work harder than ever before. To make space, muscles and tendons in the spine relax, and it curves out of its normal shape. The stomach is also compressed and rotated through 45 degrees. It can only hold small amounts of food and drink, and still, the growing baby demands more. After 9 months, it's time to give birth. And pushing out a 7-pound baby can be quite a challenge. Softened tendons allow the pelvis to open up the birth canal. But even so, it's a cramped space. Volumetric imaging shows the claustrophobic route the baby has to take, with a tight twist to get around the tailbone. Sometimes it's too tight of a squeeze for mother and baby. The only option for a safe delivery is surgery, a cesarean section. From a newborn baby to becoming a parent in 30 years, the circle of life goes on. Raising kids puts a huge strain on us physically and emotionally. Life will never be the same again.